says if you're trying to pay off debt, if you're trying to save money, or maybe you're just plain broke, you gotta eat rice and beans. Now, I agree with most of what that man says, but that is just not true. Today, I have 3 budget meals for you that are not rice and beans, still delicious, and can still help you do any one of those 3 things. So for this one, I'm making a rice noodles with baked tofu and sugar snap peas with a peanut sauce, which is phenomenal. This was inspired by something I saw in a magazine, but they had coconut milk in there and I didn't have any coconut milk, and I figured, why don't I just like switch that out for something I have on hand? So then I went and searched for a second recipe with the similar ingredients, right? So it's like, okay, I had bought tofu because it was on sale. I have rice noodles already, so all I need to do is get sugar snap peas. And then if I can like pass on the coconut milk, maybe I can make a peanut sauce, because that's where my mind went, or maybe something with soy sauce. So I was easily able to find a separate recipe that actually had like a peanut soy sauce that was gonna go with the meal. And so it's like one thing inspired me and I ended up in another place, which is amazing. So that's kind of how I manage not purchasing extra items, because it's kind of my goal to make sure that I don't purchase more than 5 items per meal. But also if I can just stretch what I already have, if I can, like in this case, I only purchased one thing. That's a pantry meal at its best, right? So I have rice noodles and sugar snap peas. I ended up purchasing these. And then last week tofu was on sale, so I purchased that, put that in the fridge, and I found a recipe for it already.
Fun fact, I used to work at Pizza Hut in high school, and there was this one guy that worked there. I was just talking about him. I thought he was so cute. He's in a band or whatever. He was older than me, so whatever he said, it was like Bible to me. But he was talking, I think he was vegetarian, and he was telling me about how good tofu is. And I was like, I don't know about that. But he said people aren't eating tofu right, and that you really have to take the tofu out of the container and let it sit under a book to get all of the liquid out before you eat it, and then it's actually super delicious. So that's what we're doing today, and I've never forgotten this fact, and it's actually very true. So it cooks up a lot better if it doesn't have all of that water in it. There's just so much liquid. I'm gonna let mine sit for like an hour to kind of like really mush it down, and get all of that liquid out so that it cooks up really well.
I sliced it up into cubes and then sprayed the bottom of a pan with some olive oil, and then put the cubes onto the pan and then sprayed that again with olive oil, or you could just drizzle some on if that's what you have. And then just top that with salt and pepper, and we're baking that for 30 minutes at 475 degrees. While that cooks, I'm just gonna get my sauce started. So in total, this meal is gonna be probably around 40 minutes, which is a very reasonable weeknight meal. So for the sauce, I used 3 cloves of minced garlic. You could also use garlic powder for this. I just happen to have some garlic around. I'd use about a teaspoon, a half a cup of warm water, a half a cup of peanut butter. And funny story about my peanut butter, I just got this and then my son didn't put the cap on, and you can see the drips. I took it out of the cabinet, thought it was on, the cover was on, no. And this is like the really good, all natural, but also creamy peanut butter. And it just spilled everywhere. And I was like, well, there's $5 down the drain, so fun. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of honey, a tablespoon of sriracha. I put a little less in because my kids are gonna eat it. I don't want it to be too spicy. A tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, and then if you can use like a tablespoon of fresh lime juice, but I didn't have fresh lime juice. And sometimes what I'll do if I know that I don't have like extra limes around, which is just silly, sometimes I don't get as much as maybe I might need, is to save them, because you can use the zest of the lime. So I actually had saved these from using them the other day, and I still had zest on them, so I just figured I'd put the zest in there and give it some lime flavor. You could always also use squeezed lime juice. The thing is about pantry cooking and cooking on a budget, like if you're a person who does want to try and keep your family's budget to $600 a month, I have to do things like that regularly, like swap things out. And it's not necessarily the act of money that I'm saving in that moment, like just because that like lime zest is cheaper than lime. It's just the fact that I avoided buying 2 things at the grocery store for this meal specifically. Like I didn't buy coconut milk and I didn't buy an extra lime. And that's a few dollars, but that's a few dollars I can spend on something else that's really important to us, like really fresh fruit, or I can buy in bulk in other areas. So I can buy more of my frozen broccoli that I love to keep in the freezer and items like that. So there are just little trade-offs that you can make in order to make your budget feel much more robust. Just not by buying things that feel like slightly, it seems absurd to say, but slightly frivolous. I almost forgot, I bought peanuts and I knew these were gonna be a great snack. I was like, oh, they'll also be really good on this tofu dish.
So you just want to cook the rice noodles according to package instructions. A lot of them like are say to soak them or cook them for a little bit of time. These particular ones, they're like the rice sticks, they're thicker. They were like 8 minutes to cook, and it really did take 8 minutes. After 5 minutes, so when there's 3 minutes left, whatever your cooking instructions are, when there's 3 minutes left, you want to add those sugar snap peas in and let them cook for 3 minutes. And it's the perfect amount of time to just bring out all those sugars. And then the tofu should be ready, coming right out of the oven, and it ends up so crispy and like it's not going to fall apart in your pasta. The problem with not baking it and not reducing the amount of liquid is that it basically falls into a mush and it turns into like a ricotta, which is fine, but not really great for a meal like this. You just want to add that sauce right to your rice noodles and your sugar snap peas. I forgot to say you do want to drain the water out of this, but you can just drain it in a strainer, put it back in the same pot so we don't have to make extra dishes. And then you can just pour the tofu right in there as well and mix it all up. And I served mine with some crushed peanuts, some sliced scallions, and sesame seeds on top. And I love to keep sesame seeds around, so if you ever have like a few bucks in your budget and you want to grab them, they just add like a little bit of pop to any Asian dish, and it makes it feel like it came from a restaurant or something. Like it's just that addition that you need to make it a little extra special. And this was absolutely fantastic. And my husband was trying to give me attitude. He doesn't like tofu generally. He complains about it, but he absolutely loved this dish. So I was kind of laughing at him like, you were wrong. It was so good.
It's our birthday celebration.
Benny, is it good?
Yeah.
You like
Our
it?
birthday present. I give it a 5 out of 5.
Wow. Want to do a rating?
1 out of 5.
Ooh. Today we're gonna make some chicken drumsticks in the slow cooker because chicken drumsticks are one of the least expensive cuts of meat. So if you're trying to look for something that is healthier, organic, this is where you're gonna find your deals. This was $7.34 for this chicken, which is actually a lot cheaper than most of the chickens that you're gonna find at the grocery store or Whole Foods. Let me see, per pound, it's $4.99 a pound. So it's still, buying organic chicken is not cheap, but if you do want to buy it, the drumsticks are a great way to go. I'm going to start with a half a cup of either soy sauce or coconut aminos, 1/3 cup of honey, which is going to be the rest of what I have in this jar here. Honey is just like anything, like sauces. You just put a little bit of water in there and get the rest out of the container if you mix it up. 1/3 a cup of chicken broth, or in this case bone broth. This is great to make rice or quinoa with because it actually absorbs into there, so you get all the nutrients in your rice or your quinoa when you make it with this. 2 teaspoons of freshly grated ginger, and with this ginger I always just buy a root and then I put it in the freezer, and when you put it in the freezer it actually grates even better than when it's fresh, so that way I always have fresh ginger on hand from the freezer. I'm just going to pop this back into the freezer when I'm done. And then I just crushed and roughly chopped 2 cloves of garlic. If you don't have fresh ginger or garlic, you can always use a teaspoon of garlic powder and a teaspoon of ground ginger. Use 2 teaspoons of sesame oil, measure with our heart. This is going to make a really lovely sauce. It is my intention with these to take the rest of the chicken after my family of 5 eats tonight, because my kids will each eat maybe 1. My husband and I will have 2, and then I'll have like 3 or 4 drumsticks left. I can cut all the meat off of that, and then we'll have fried rice for dinner tomorrow night, and I'm just gonna use the leftover chicken in here, and I'll use some eggs. So we have lots of protein in our fried rice, and it's kind of a rollover meal. Plus this already has like that soy sauce flavor to it, so it's gonna be perfect to put into fried rice. I'm gonna put this on high for a couple of hours. You could also do low for 4 to 6 hours, depending on how your crock pot cooks, but mine cooks relatively fast. So it's already 2:30 here, and I'm hoping it's done right around 4:35, guys. So your chicken is ready. I'm just gonna pull mine off and put it on the grill for a couple minutes just to char it up on the outside. And then I just microwaved some frozen broccoli. And this is on high here. And I made up a slurry with about a half a tablespoon of water and a half a tablespoon of cornstarch. I'm gonna pour that right in. There's lots of good flavor in this sauce, and it will very quickly season our broccoli. So for the rice, I just cooked it up according to instructions. So I used the rest of the bone broth to cook this, just according to package instructions, and I used that bone broth instead of
water, and then I'll save half of this rice for tomorrow in the fridge. It'll crisp up really nice and be perfect for making white fried rice.
And once I pulled these off the grill, they were crispy on the outside and honestly just cooked perfectly. So I just put some sesame seeds on them and some sliced scallions to add some color and another like little bit of layer of crunch, and they were so delicious.
I'll give it a 5 over 5.
What was it shaped like?
Banana.
Next up, I'm making fish stick tacos. These are the perfect summer meal. They're super budget friendly. I think this comes out to like $2.60 a serving. And I'm even using the good fish sticks, as you'd say. So these were on sale a few weeks ago. And I thought, I'm just going to grab them. And then when the time is right, they'll be in my freezer. I can make some fish stick tacos. And I've made these before and they're always a hit. So you just want to cook the fish sticks according to package instructions. And then luckily there's just not too much to do with these. So while those are baking, I'm making the sauce. And you can use more if you are going to make more or you need more. I was just trying to use up what I had left in my Greek yogurt container, but you can also use sour cream. And I think I had about 1/3 cup at the end. And I even used a little bit of cream to kind of thin it out because I just didn't have that much. So that's your choice. You can do something like that. That's a great way to kind of stretch something. And then I also had some coleslaw mix, like some cabbage mix, which is great because I ended up with extras for that. So I could make some egg roll in a bowl. That's what I love to do with that shredded cabbage. But you can add it to almost anything. It cooks down really well, and it's an addition of a delicious vegetable. Now, if you have a fresh lime, go ahead and squeeze that in, or you could even use like the bottled lime juice. I am using what I have, so I actually have a lime that I already squeezed, and then I just put about a teaspoon of zest in there and squeezed out any of those last juices that I could from those 2 halves. So even if I don't have extra limes left, my last lime I'll just put in the Ziploc bag, and then I'll just save it for occasions like this, and then you still get lime out of an, quote, old lime. And then to flavor up the sauce, you want to add a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. And generally, I also do a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, but for some reason, I'm like, I must have forgot here, and it still tasted great. So good with or without. And then to the coleslaw mix, I just added in about a 1/4 cup of cilantro, and I just cut that with scissors. I find that's a really great way to just like chop it up, but you can also use a knife. And then I did the same thing with about 2 teaspoons of scallions, and that way everything's just kind of incorporated evenly within there, and there's like a lot of flavor. And it kind of worked out that my fish sticks came out of the oven, and then I just heated up the corn tortillas right on a hot pan. If you have a propane stove, you can actually just heat them right over the open flame, and then they'll just get a little crispy on each side, which is super nice. Or you can follow any instructions on the back of the package as well. And then just put those taco shells on a plate or in these taco holders. I used to have bigger ones, but I found that they were just kept falling out of my cabinets. So I got these smaller ones, which are really nice because they just stack up on top of each other and take up way less room, and they still work just the same. So either way. And then just fill that with a fish stick or 2. If you're doing, you can actually do like smaller flour tortillas, the street taco ones. That would do just 1 fish stick in it. These were like more of a traditional size, so I ended up adding like 2 fish sticks to each one, and then topping that with my coleslaw mix and my sauce, and it's absolutely fantastic. Like, this tastes like the restaurant, and you're just using fish sticks, and you can even use the really good ones like I had because they were on sale, and those are like gluten-free, and it's wild caught cod, and it's just really fresh and really good ingredients. And my kids actually did not like the idea of the fish stick tacos, so I said, that's fine. You can just have fish sticks. They dipped them in ketchup, and I served it with a side salad, and that was still a nice healthy meal for them too.
If you love the budget tips in today's video and want to learn more about how my family of 5 spends only $600 a month on groceries, I have an entire community that you can check out. Inside Pantry Cooking Academy, you can access the 4-week Smart Spend Bootcamp, which will cut your grocery bill in half in just 30 days. You also get monthly meal plans that are mix and match and include plenty of pantry meals. All the information for this is down in the description box, so go ahead and check it out today.